welcome to December 6th, 2022, 9:30 a.m. Tax Committee Planning and Zoning.
Awful. Here. Geiger.
Here.
Hughes.
Here.
Ducat.
Here. Everyone take a minute, look at the agenda. No questions, we have a motion.
I'll make one.
I'll second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Got to audit the claims and send to the county board for approval. These county machines get expensive. I know. Poor trees.
These purely copy machines or the printer and copy? All of them.
Facts, facts.
I hope not.
We are very limited on our fax machines.
Gotcha. I just knew online why it's so cheap. Right. Thank you.
Don't let me slow
Oh,
down.
I have a motion to approve claims then, sorry.
So moved.
I just want to make sure you get a chance to read everything. I'll second.
Awful.
Yes.
Geiger.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Ducat.
Yes. There's any public comments?
I have one.
Go ahead, Scott.
At the appropriate time in the meeting, old business, new business, I'm not sure what it would be. I'd like to hear some discussion, explanation, justification for the 13.7% proposed increase in the tax levy.
Anyone else? All right, start reporting on departments. Who starts first?
Your choice, Susan.
Who just starts first?
Brian.
All right.
He's get mad when I have to go first, but whatever. So we wrapped up the 2020 general election on November 22nd, and that is just in time for us to begin filing for the April 4th consolidated. So filing for that will start on December 12th and then end on the 19th. The only districts that will file with the county are school districts. All of the other municipalities and fire park library districts will file with their Leo, who is normally the clerk for those boards. Levy filing is picking up. The last day to file the levies are the last Tuesday of December. So we had to send out reminder letters just to all of the jurisdictions that we hadn't received budgets, levies, comptroller reports, the normal paperwork that we get. So we had to send out 160 reminder letters. Waste hauler stickers are due at the end of the month, and we sent notices out to all of the waste haulers and had maybe one or two of the 8 different companies comply. So we had to send reminder letters out to them. We work in conjunction with the health department, who does inspections on all of the trucks and then gives the okay to issue the sticker. We also will have the initial letters for statements of economic interest going out at the beginning of the year, which those are the letters that go to all the taxing body clerks, who will submit a list to my office that indicates all of the people that are required to file this statement of economic interest. Then those yellow sheets will go out in beginning of March. And then the last thing, we have been e-recording since October, and we're e-recording all documents that are not property transfers, so basically everything besides deeds. Things have been going really well. I'm hoping that we'll be able to implement the e-recording for the land transfers sometime at the end of 2023, beginning of 2024. So that's about it.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
You spoke up.
My office, we've done the last tax distribution in November. My chief deputy, Yvonne Doggett, retired at the end of November. She's been here, I think, about 27, 28 years. So I have a new person in the office, Callie Riddle, is now my chief deputy. And the under deputy who I had hired a month ago quit on me, so I'm now looking for another person. And it's kind of difficult because I get a lot of resumes, but some of them don't show up for the interviews after they find out what they're paid, so. Other than that, I don't have any other thing.
Questions for anyone? Move on. Oh, Bob doesn't do the claims.
Okay, on the assessment side,
He's got it.
board review is in session right now, we're taking complaints. Obviously, the equalization factors that were implemented caused some discussion. Obviously, if you get the Ford County Chronicle, there was a big article last week in the paper about it, because the LOTA residents do take an interest in equalization, more so than other parts of the county. So we're dealing with that. The last day to file a complaint with the board review for 2022 assessment is December 22nd. So we'll be taking complaints until then. The board review will finalize their work and we'll move on with the tax cycle. Pretty much all I had for that. Before I go to zoning, I want to make a statement about the tax levy. As we know, we have a truth and taxation hearing scheduled for Thursday. I'm speculating from some of the questions I've gotten from board members that the majority of the county board does not understand the levy process at all. Technically, the levy process is a function of the county board. It's not a function of Jill or me. It's a function of the county board. And if some taxpayers come in Thursday and have specific questions about why, what happened, I don't speculate there'll be anybody from the county board that could answer those questions. So I assume I'll be attending, Jill will be attending, but it's really not our responsibility to answer those questions. The county board puts a painstaking amount of time through the finance department with the budget process. I understand that, and they do a good job with that. But that's just a guideline. The levy's the money. It's the actual money that we function on, and we need to know who's asking for what and what their purpose for using that money is for. Now we're asking for almost a 14% increase over last year's extension. That's a big number. Now there's several factors that go into that number, and I have all that information. But like I said, it's not technically, I'm not responsible, and I'm not going to be held liable for a problem with the tax levy. And I don't think Jill will be either. As we noted last year, we had an issue with the health department levy. I was at those meetings. That $90,000 was the requested amount, and the health department had ample time to change that amount or disagree with that amount, and they did nothing. And so when the levy was dispersed, when Kirk dispersed the funds, they want to know where all their money's at. Well, they come to Jill and say, what'd you do? And there's nobody on the county board to, the only person, me and Jill are the only two that were really technical. The county board voted on it and passed it, but they didn't have any input in that process of determining and making that levy. Prior to a couple terms, Dale Schultz from the tax committee took an interest in the levy. He knew it, he understood it, he could explain it, and he was a member of the tax committee and a member of the county board. Ever since he's retired, nobody has stepped up on the county board to do that job. And I urge the county board as a whole to either find somebody on the tax committee or find somebody within the county board that's willing to learn it and understand it and be able to explain it. Because ultimately, you guys have to explain it to the public. I technically don't. I mean, I can, and I probably will have to say something Thursday if there's a question because I have the information. But ultimately, it's the tax committee and the county board that has to explain it to the public if there is any question. Now, I've been through many truth and taxation hearings, sitting on school boards for 16 years and so forth. The majority of people don't show up, and there's really hardly ever a question asked. They just, but people are starting to pay attention a little bit more because money's getting tighter again, and that's when people take an interest in what's going on with their tax dollars. And like I said, the budget, if we put as much, I mean, obviously the budget process time-wise takes more time, I get that. But the board should put as much effort into the levy because that's the actual money. That's the money that we collect. What you approve Thursday and then to the full board is the money that Kurt's office collects in this spring. That's the real money. And people may have a question, and if somebody from the county board can't answer that question, it doesn't look good. And I'm just urging it. I've been talking about it off and on for 3 or 4 years. I'm really pushing it now because this is not something that, and actually since we had the issue with the health department, this is something that needs to be addressed and taken care of. Obviously, we have to assist. I got numbers that are important. Jill has numbers that are important. Joel Moore has numbers that are important. The health department has numbers that are important, but it all ends up in the same line on the tax bill, the county tax rate. All that money, and then the county disperses that money. So it's all a function of the county board. And so just urging you to consider it, talk about it. I mean, obviously this levy time is now, like Brian said, the end of the month, you gotta have it in, so we're at crunch time. We should have had these, like Scott suggested, well, we didn't have any months of discussion on why. Well, Joel never answered any questions. I haven't answered any real questions. Health department never, all made requests at the budget, but all those funds are capped out, their rates are capped. So their amounts are based on whatever the EAV is, which is the number that I give. So now with the EAV jumping dramatically, the question comes, does every department need all that money, all that extra money? As you've noticed in the papers, all the school districts are all having truth in taxation hearings. They're taking the money. Now, I don't know if their residents are gonna go after the school boards and say, why do you need it all? I have no idea, but it's just something that we need to be aware of. Like I said, I've been helping with the tax levy for 16, 17 years. I'm an important part of that, but bottom line, it's not my responsibility or Jill's responsibility to do the levy. You guys submit it, you vote on it, you approve it. You should understand, at least few people on the board should know how to explain it and how it works. So that's my soapbox for the day. I'm sorry.
Well, and just to kind of give the new members an idea, through the levy process, all I really do is reach out to those entities and get their requests for their levies. And then I have a worksheet I put together and I present that to the county board. After Bob takes a look at it, gives me the EAV. And normally I try to do that in October, which happened this year again. All got emailed out and sent out, but I don't really do much other than that. The budget is where I put in the time and the effort and where I reach out and get those numbers. And I do have documentation of every entity and their request. And my fear too is, a couple of years ago, we decided to levy zero for our IMRF funds because we have an excess in our funding. It is still levied at zero, but when the day comes that needs to start building back up again, that's gonna be an issue as well.
And the board's gonna have to decide whether they wanna increase that fund or not Jill or me. So just something you guys need to be aware of and take an interest in. Hopefully somebody will. It doesn't have to be somebody from the tax committee. You can find somebody on the county board that has some knowledge, levy knowledge, background, and wants to learn. I'll be glad to sit down with anybody for an hour, a couple hours and go through it. I mean, 16 years of school board and 20 years of county government. I've been through a few levies and budgets, so it's once you get the handle on it, it's not so bad. But the fact is that we're discussing this today, and the truth of taxation hearing is Thursday. To me, is a problem. For you guys, because you're the ones that have to explain it. If somebody actually has some questions on Thursday. So, all right, zoning. Report, pretty slow month. I assume winter, holidays, building costs still, it's really slowed down. And inspections are still going on. And the only real permit I had besides 2 monopoles for broadband was an ag permit, so there was no fee even with that. So that's pretty self-explanatory. In the claims, you see there was a ZBA hearing, and that's really the focus for zoning today is Greg and Kelly Shambrook from Danforth are here. They purchased 3 parcels southwest of Melford. And they're 3 separate parcels, and on one of their parcels, they have a hill that's outside the floodplain. And they wanted to rezone it from A1 to RH1 for hopefully someday to build a single family residence. And they went through ZBA on Tuesday, and it went through without a problem, no public input one way or the other. Greg and Kelly are sitting right here if you have any questions for them. And so that's pretty much basically it. It's a 7-point-some acre tract, and it's got like a 2 acres area that's on a hill that's elevated substantially out of the floodplain, and it's a perfect spot to build a house, and so that's what they kind of want to do. So, if you have any questions for them?
Any questions? I read it, so you got a long drive, what you're saying.
There's an easement off the road,
Right.
the field in front of me. It's 770 feet, something like that, from the road. So there's a permanent easement in the deed for all successors and stuff. And I've talked to Dan Anderson owns the land, talked to him, and he's okay with putting rock on it so we can get back to the
Is that gonna be
property.
your drive, just a rock drive?
Yeah,
Okay.
so we're just waiting on all this to happen, and we'll build a driveway back there and get started this next year, I hope.
Anybody else got any questions?
Need a motion to approve it. Paul,
Yes, sir.
you can take a motion to approve that.
Can I get a motion to approve it?
I'll make it.
Second.
Ready?
Awful,
Yes.
Geiger,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Ducat,
Yes.
Okay, there's a county board meeting is next Tuesday in the same room at 9 o'clock, and that's the binding vote. So you're not required to attend, but I would recommend one of you be here. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
No, I didn't know why.
2 down, 3, 1 to go.
I
Yeah.
right, you're getting closer finally.
No, I'm just waiting.
Thank you, nice to meet you.
Thank you. Bobby, anything else?
Everything's on the, I think the resolution's on the agenda, and that's it.
All right, we'll move on to old business. Need a motion to accept the ordinance to opt out of the preferential assessment for affordable rental housing, construction and rehabilitation.
What I want to just make a point to this is, all this does is opt out.
That's someone else's, Jack.
Oh.
It's just an option out of a program that it's basically designed for low-income housing. A lot of areas are obviously into have that. It protects us from having to redo assessments on existing parcels. If a new project wants to come to Iroquois County and it's low income, you can always opt back into this program to help them and assist them in getting the project up and running. So it's only just it protects us from having to go reassess stuff that's already there. You can opt back in if somebody a developer comes with a major project that's low income and you want to be part of that and help, then we can opt back in.
I make a motion to accept the ordinance to opt out of preferential assessment for affordable rental housing, construction, and rehabilitation pursuant to 35 ILCS 200-15/178.
Awful,
Yes.
Geiger,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Ducat,
Yes. Scott, do you still need an explanation?
I'm sorry.
Do you still need an explanation after what Bob said?
Well, I mean, that's your prerogative, I'll listen.
And I can give you the specific number explanation if you want that.
Whatever Scott's looking for.
It's something that might come up Thursday, so it's good to have, you guys may want to, if you're gonna be there.
Oh, I wanna
know it's
hear.
after finance, so I don't know if anybody from tax is gonna be there. But the main reason, the two big reasons for the increase to the 14% is there was a substantial increase in EAV because of the real estate market for the residential side has gone crazy. And then also, the the health department levy in, last year was only 90,000 and they wanted it back to their 316,000. And then also the county general fund, the highway general fund, the bridge fund, and the matching tax funds are all cap rates. Means they are already capped out. So whatever the EAV is, if they use the full rate, they get the full amount. So that changes, so in turn, the county's general fund will increase $243,000 from last year. The highway's $90,000, the bridge is $45,000, the matching is 45,000, and the health increase is 226,000, which is a total increase of 649,000. You divide that by last year's extension, which is 5.2 million plus or minus, and of the 13.4%, 7%, that's 12.4% of it. It's right there in those 5 lines. Now, the question comes, does, obviously the health department's not capped out. That's their levy request from their budget, I would assume, Jill. Now, so the question comes, does highway need every dime, and does the county general fund need every dime? And if that's the answer is yes, then that's where we're at, based on, because you compare it to last year's extension to this year's levy. So that's where if it's over 5%, then you have to have truth in taxation. The point that I made earlier, and I think where Scott's going with this, there was no discussion of these increases in prior tax meetings up until just last month's finance meeting. And does Joel need to make a presentation to, just saying, well, I need all the money? Is that a good enough explanation for the highway committee and the county board? It may be. That's not my decision to make. But that's the stuff that, and typically the county's always needed every dime in the general fund. Always has. Ever since I've been here, we've always been crunching pension pennies and stuff. So now, is the county getting more comfortable? Do they need all the $2 million? John's saying yes, so that's fine, and that's what you may have to explain to somebody. But and then on the backside of that is just going to be a devil's advocate. Is you're in the middle of negotiations, the unions pay attention to that. So just be aware of that. But that's the real reason for the increase of the 13.7%. 12.4 of it is those 5 line items, and they're basically all county, except the health department. They're all the other 4 county line items, and they're all capped rates. So they have no room to go any higher on their rate, so they're capped out. So whatever they get, they get. And if they need it all, I have no issue with it. But I just want to make sure everybody knows how to. If you're asked on the street, you're asked that you can explain it. That's what I was kind of driving at earlier. So and I'd hazard to guess that of the 16 county board members, majority of them don't have a clue. So, is that good enough? Is that what you wanted to hear? That's the reason that we went up over 5%. The other discussion, and then I think we're past the discussion of do they need the money or not, as far as the highway department, because it's Thursday is the truth in taxation hearing. Now, if it comes up Thursday, you guys have to be ready to answer it, because I don't know if anybody from the public will show up or not. I guess it's.
What time's the meeting?
It's after finance.
10 is when it's set for.
Could I ask a question? Is there a way to take the budget requests and then come up with a percentage that's needed instead of just taking the whole EAV? Do you know what I'm asking?
Well, the EAV is the EAV.
Right.
You can't change that number, but there is, obviously, you can take the EAV and then take last year's extension and add 5%, and only increase it so it's less 5% or less. Yeah, you could do that by the math, but then you wouldn't be, your cap rate would be, you'd be lower than your rate would drop, basically, is what would happen. That'd be the end result. And then,
I think that's my point.
right.
To take the budget, what they are asking for, and make the percentage match so it does not appear that you're over.
Yeah,
Right.
You can do the math, you can, but
And where would we be?
traditionally, all these cap rate funds have been capped for years. So, and they've been taking, and it's never created this big increase because the EAV has not been at the jump it's had. Will the worm turn someday? Yeah, I think so. It always does. market will drop, then EAVs will go down and so forth, but the issue I think you're having is there was no discussion about, does the highway need all the money? Does the county board, the general fund need all the money this year or not? That's a discussion that needs to be had in committee, not at truth and taxation. And that's where my point is, this process needed to start in committee 2 or 3 months ago. And that means somebody from the county board has to take it over and talk about it, because you have to reach out to all the people, go to the budget hearings to see what they're requesting. EAV is a moving target, but I usually get pretty close about the right time to make those decisions. So, now, was I expecting it to go up like this? No. This caught me off guard too.
I think there's a lot of other factors that enter into it as far as maybe the lack of discussions, because I think there were a lot of discussions that were held in the finance committee meetings this past year, but there've been a lot of unknowns, and there still are unknowns that exist, because we're going through negotiations with our unions, and they're asking for 13-14% increases in wages.
And the economy and everything
And
else.
that's, we've reached a tentative agreement with one bargaining unit, so we still have 2 more to go this year and then one next coming year. And we know, for example, the one that's coming up this year, in order to meet the state's minimum wage requirements, we're gonna be having to have 7% increases for a lot of employees. And where do we find the money to do those things? There's just a lot of unknowns involved in that part of it. And that's why our intention at this time is to try and get as much money as we can in order to handle that. If we find a year from now that we have an excess and can reduce the levy, that's great, we can do that. But I don't think we want to get caught short. And I think that's the thinking that's prevailed in the discussions that the finance committee has had regarding the budget and so forth. And there are other factors that, the county has a lot of revenue from other sources and some of those are also questionable as to how the inflation that we're experiencing is gonna impact on our sales tax revenues and so forth. It all ties together. I will say I appreciate your interest, and I think it's important that we have as much knowledge of the facts as possible. And I agree with what Bob said. There's very few people on the board that understand the levy and how it works. I think when Dale Schultz was in charge of it, I was here at that time, and I think that Dale was an exception to the rule. I believe before Dale,
We did it wrong before they took over, didn't we?
so, I mean, if he's the model we have to aspire to, we may come up short. And if that's the case, then maybe we need to try and identify what that level or model should be, because I do think Dale was the exception rather than the rule, and I agree that.
Hopefully there's another exception out there.
Yeah.
Because it's not, bottom line, it's really, it's not me and Jill's responsibility.
No, I understand that, and I'll have to say for myself, I think I probably understand the levy as well as any board member, but I don't know that I would ever compare my knowledge and ability in that regard with what Dale had.
He took an interest in it.
I agree. I mean, I can look at the sheets and I understand everything and how it all works, but I'm not sure I could put it all together. And maybe we need to have some discussion as to.
This spreadsheet's stale, isn't it? He developed that.
Yeah, that's what it says in the auditors.
But there still are questions about it. I don't feel that I would be capable of answering all the questions that might arise.
Good, gentlemen? Scott, I'll talk to you after the meeting again, man.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
Can I talk to you after the meeting for a minute too?
you. Right now, or
Just after the meeting.
Yeah, sure.
You have any new business? All right, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I make that motion to adjourn.
Second. All fair say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes.